It starts with a document no one admits exists. A sealed file whispered about in corridors, moved in silence, guarded like a crown itself. Then William sees it, and everything changes. Because this isn't a rumor or a family argument, it's paperwork with consequences. A removal pathway hidden inside protocol, designed for a crisis the palace never wanted the public to imagine. And tonight, William is done protecting secrets that protect the wrong people. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. In this dramatized account, William doesn't stumble onto the file like a curious prince. He is led to it by instinct, by a pattern he can't ignore anymore, doors that close too quickly, conversations that stop when he enters, and a kind of silence that doesn't feel respectful. It feels defensive. He's reluctant, but resolute, because he understands what this costs. Once he touches it, he becomes part of it. Once he reads it, he can't pretend he didn't. And the worst part is that he isn't reading gossip. He's reading a mechanism, an institutional pathway that turns human relationships into procedural steps. The document doesn't speak in anger. It speaks in cold language, the kind that claims neutrality while hiding the sharpest blade. It doesn't say remove. It implies restructure. It doesn't say punish. It implies stability. And that's what chills William most, not the idea that the palace can do something drastic, but the fact it prepared to do it calmly, like this scenario was always expected, like a storm the institution had already mapped before the clouds arrived. Foreshadow hangs in the details. The file wasn't drafted for comfort. It was drafted for contingency. For a moment when the crown decides public trust matters more than private loyalty, and the way it's written suggests it has been edited, tightened, updated, rehearsed on paper until it reads like inevitability. William realizes the palace has imagined this crisis for years, and the unsettling question isn't why it exists, it's why he was never meant to see it. Around him, staff panic begins without ever becoming loud. It's the kind of panic that looks like efficiency. Briefings suddenly reschedule. Security becomes routine. Access lists tighten. People stop using names and start using euphemisms. Because if this surfaces, the crown looks unstable. If the public learns there's a protocol designed to sideline a senior figure, the monarchy doesn't just face scandal, it faces the accusation of planning a narrative, managing legitimacy like a brand. And brands don't rule countries. Trust does. Catherine becomes the quiet anchor, not because she's emotionless, but because she understands what emotional reactions become inside the palace, weakness to be exploited. She watches William read. She watches his face shift in small ways he can't hide. She doesn't tell him what to do. She doesn't have to. Her calm is strategic, a reminder that the only safe way through a crisis like this is clarity. She's thinking about the future, about George, about what kind of monarchy they're trying to preserve. And she knows that once the truth exists in daylight, no amount of spin can put it back into the vault. William's conflict isn't simply moral, it's personal. The document makes it clear that removal isn't one dramatic act. It's a chain, a process, a sequence of steps that requires signatures, approvals, and timed announcements. It turns people into roles, and roles into liabilities. William feels the pressure of inheritance in a new way, because the monarchy he will one day lead isn't just a family. It's a machine capable of protecting itself by sacrificing whoever it decides the public will no longer accept. Then comes the cliffhanger that tightens everything. William realizes someone powerful already knows he has it, not because they saw him holding it, but because the palace reacts too quickly, too precisely. The containment begins before he speaks. The corridors feel watched, the smiles feel rehearsed. And the moment he senses he's being managed, he understands the truth. He didn't discover the file in peace. He discovered it in a battlefield where the first move has already been made against him. And once William understands who tried to bury that file, the story stops being about Camilla and becomes about who's been controlling the monarchy from the shadows. The palace doesn't say remove, it says restructure. It doesn't say crisis, it says stability measures. But the document William uncovers reads like a blueprint for containment legal language designed to reduce a royal figure's public role without admitting defeat. It's not about emotion, it's about survival. And the most terrifying part is how calmly it's written, like this scenario was always expected. In this dramatized scenario, William reads it twice because the first time his mind refuses to accept what his eyes are seeing. The protocol is written in neutral language, so clean it almost feels polite. No insults, no accusations, no moral judgment, just procedures, just steps, just safeguards. And that's what makes it more radical than any scandal headline, because it treats a living person like a variable to be managed, a risk to be reduced, an image to be controlled. The document doesn't scream, it whispers. And whispering, in the palace, is how power moves without leaving fingerprints. The pages are structured like an emergency plan disguised as routine governance. Words like continuity, representation, and public-facing limitations are placed where you'd expect compassion. And the effect is chilling. It's containment dressed as responsibility. It's demotion dressed as strategic allocation. It's the palace doing what it does best, making something brutal look administrative. William realizes this isn't written for comfort, it's written for inevitability. Like the institution has always believed that one day, someone would need to be scaled back for the crown to survive. Foreshadow shows up in a detail William can't stop staring at: revision markers. Not dramatic, not obvious, but enough to suggest the document was revised, recently tightened language, updated references, adjusted timelines. That suggests urgency. That suggests someone expected activation. That suggests the palace wasn't merely preserving an old contingency, it was preparing a living weapon for a present moment. And William feels that shift in his chest, because it means the danger isn't hypothetical. It's current, it's close, multiple triggers are implied, and none of them sound like family. Optics, trust, constitutional pressure. The document doesn't talk about feelings, it talks about consequences, how public confidence can fall, how legitimacy can weaken, how headlines can harden into belief. Public confidence is framed as the true crown jewel, the one asset that cannot be repaired once shattered. And in that logic, the person being restructured becomes less important than the perception being protected. William understands the argument, and that understanding makes him angrier, because he sees how easily morality gets replaced by calculation. As he reads, William starts to feel the moral rot beneath the neat paragraphs. This isn't just a plan for managing a difficult moment. It's a plan for controlling truth. It's the palace deciding that the public doesn't get to see conflict, doesn't get to see hesitation, doesn't get to see fracture. The public gets what the institution can endure, and the institution endures by editing reality. William thinks about everything he's swallowed over the years, every private matter, every misunderstanding, every handled internally. He realizes the document isn't an exception. It's the purest expression of how the palace has always survived. And then he reaches the clause that changes his breathing. The mechanism doesn't activate automatically. It requires senior sign-off from a specific office. The language is so careful it doesn't feel like a threat until he understands what it means. This is a lever that can only be pulled by someone with immense authority, someone positioned above ordinary family dynamics, someone who can transform containment from suggestion into order. William sees it and goes still, because now the document isn't just describing power, it's pointing to where power truly sits. That's when Catherine's earlier silence makes sense in a new way. This isn't a family problem, it's an institutional structure designed to override family emotion. It's a system built to protect the crown, even if the crown must hurt someone to protect itself. William's mind starts racing, not toward who deserves what, but toward who has been preparing this behind the scenes. Who has been refining the language? Who has been anticipating the moment when stability measures become action? Who benefits when the palace can quietly reduce a figure and call it continuity? And when William sees whose signature would activate the mechanism, he realizes this isn't just a plan, it's a weapon aimed at the heart of the household. Documents like this don't get pulled out for petty disagreements. They come out when something has happened, something the palace believes could shatter public trust if it spreads. Insiders in this dramatized scenario describe a sudden shift, meetings tightening, schedules being rewritten, advisors speaking in code. It feels like the monarchy is bracing for impact, because whatever triggered this file wasn't just embarrassing, it was dangerous. The palace enters containment mode the way a ship seals compartments when it senses water below deck. Access narrows. Briefings become controlled. Conversations become shorter and colder. People stop saying names and start saying the matter, the situation, the schedule. That coded language isn't professionalism, it's fear. And fear inside the palace doesn't look like panic, it looks like precision. The kind of precision that tells William the institution has already calculated outcomes, already chosen priorities, already decided what the public must never see. Foreshadow deepens because the trigger isn't framed as mere reputation. It's legitimacy. It's the kind of vulnerability that doesn't just create bad headlines, it creates questions the monarchy cannot answer without bleeding. That's why meetings tighten. That's why calendars get rewritten overnight. That's why advisors start speaking in phrases that sound neutral but carry threat, continuity, public appetite, confidence management. William can feel it. This is the palace protecting the crown like an organism protects a vital organ. Whatever it needs to sacrifice, it will. And that realization ignites something bitter in William. He begins to suspect selective truth has been fed to him for years. Not direct lies worse than lies. Carefully rationed information. Enough to keep him loyal, not enough to make him dangerous. Enough to maintain unity, not enough to reveal the machine behind the unity. Every time he remembers a conversation that ended too early, every time he remembers being told it's being handled, he hears it differently now. Handled means hidden. Handled means softened. Handled means controlled. Catherine senses they're being positioned as future stabilizers, and that awareness changes her entire posture. She doesn't need to be told, she reads the room the way you read a storm line on the horizon. The sudden attention, the polite urgency, the subtle shift in who is included and who is excluded. Catherine understands the palace doesn't elevate people out of kindness, it elevates them out of necessity. And necessity means the institution believes something is coming. Something the public will not accept easily unless the right faces are in place to absorb the shock. Staff fear internal leaks more than the press, because internal leaks come with context. Internal leaks come with receipts. The press can speculate, but a staff leak can confirm. That's why doors are watched. That's why people are reminded about loyalty. That's why silence becomes enforced. The palace is not just trying to manage a story, it is trying to manage the people who know the story. Then William hears the phrase that makes his blood go cold. We can't protect her this time. It isn't said theatrically. It doesn't need to be, because the brutality of that sentence is the calm way it's delivered, as if protection is a service the palace decides to offer or withdraw. As if a person's standing is a shield the institution can choose to drop when convenient. William freezes, not because he's shocked the palace can be ruthless, but because he realizes the ruthlessness is already underway. And when William discovers who said that phrase, he realizes the palace isn't debating if they'll act, they're debating how fast. In this dramatized version, Camilla doesn't plead. She doesn't crumble. She goes cold. Because a removal protocol isn't just a threat to status, it's a threat to identity. If William has a document that could reduce her role, she has only two choices: accept containment or fight for survival. And inside the palace, survival doesn't always look like war. Sometimes it looks like alliances. Camilla senses the shift before anyone admits it. Fewer invitations. Tighter rooms. Colder courtesies that arrive disguised as schedule changes. The kind of subtle exclusion that isn't loud enough to protest, but sharp enough to feel like a message. And that message is clear. Her position is being measured against public confidence, and public confidence is winning. In private, her composure becomes a weapon. Her silence becomes strategy. Because if the palace is moving against her quietly, she cannot respond loudly without looking guilty. She must respond in a way that preserves the illusion of dignity while protecting her ground. Foreshadow creeps in as her camp prepares legal resistance framed as tradition. Not defiance, not refusal, but the language the palace respects: precedent, protocol, rightful scope, consort privilege. The goal isn't just to win, it's to make winning look inevitable, to make any limitation on her look like an institutional betrayal rather than a stability measure. Camilla understands that in royal conflict, you don't just fight the decision, you fight the story around the decision. Whoever controls the story controls what the public forgives. Charles is caught in the middle, loyalty versus institutional fear, because he feels the walls closing in from both sides. If he protects Camilla openly, he risks looking like he's choosing personal loyalty over national duty. If he allows the mechanism to move forward, he risks destroying the woman beside him and exposing the weakness of his reign. And William, watching all of it, feels pressure to back down for unity. That phrase becomes the palace's favourite knife because it sounds noble while demanding surrender. Catherine watches for leaks, knowing perception decides outcomes. She understands Camilla doesn't need to defeat William in a meeting. She only needs to defeat him in the public mind. Make him look impulsive. Make him look cruel. Make him look like a son attacking his father's wife. Because once that framing exists, William's moral position becomes harder to hold. Then the cliffhanger lands with a quiet threat that changes the air in every corridor. Camilla threatens to expose other secrets if cornered. Not necessarily said directly to cameras, said where it matters, where it spreads like smoke. A reminder that the palace is built on hidden compromises. And if she goes down, she will not go down alone. And when that threat hits William's circle, the story changes from scandal to standoff, because now everyone has something to lose. A monarchy can survive anger. It struggles to survive grief. And in this story, Charles isn't furious, he's torn. Because the document forces him to confront a truth he's been avoiding, the crown cannot be both emotionally loyal and politically safe at the same time. If he protects Camilla, he risks the institution. If he allows the protocol, he risks his family. And either choice will haunt him. Charles falls into the palace instinct he knows best. Delay. Soften. Manage. He reaches for time the way some people reach for oxygen. He talks about review, consideration, proper channels, as if careful language can keep reality from arriving. In private, he tries to turn the crisis into a conversation instead of a collision. But the pressure doesn't ease. It tightens. Because once a mechanism exists on paper, the institution starts behaving like the mechanism is already moving. Foreshadow comes from the advisors around him, pushing him toward institutional survival in voices so calm they sound merciless. They speak in the language of continuity, public confidence, stability. They talk like accountants of legitimacy, measuring risk, calculating fallout, weighing who must be protected and who can be sacrificed. Charles hears them and feels something close to grief, not just for the situation, but for the realization that his reign can be cornered by perception. He wants to be a father and a husband, but the crown demands he be a symbol first. William demands clarity instead of comfort, and that demand lands like a blade. He doesn't want soothing phrases. He doesn't want a slow walk toward an inevitable decision. He wants the truth, clean and complete. Because he's realized the palace has been rationing truth for years. William's face carries the strain of inheritance in real time, the weight of becoming responsible, not just for the monarchy's image, but for the morality beneath it. Catherine becomes the voice of public trust, and her words are simple but devastating. Optics become history. She doesn't shout. She doesn't dramatize. She reminds Charles that the public will remember whatever story this becomes. Not the intention, not the private tears, the outcome. Catherine understands the modern monarchy is not judged in private rooms. It is judged in the public mind, and the public mind doesn't forgive what feels like manipulation. Charles fears the public will see weakness if he bends too easily, or deception if he hides too much. He fears looking like a king trapped by his own household, unable to control the narrative he is supposed to embody. Then comes the cliffhanger that reveals how desperate Charles has become. He asks William for a promise he can't keep. Not a formal pledge, a private one. The kind of promise a father asks when he wants to believe love can solve what power has created. He asks William to protect unity, to protect Camilla, to protect the crown's image, to not let this become public. But William hesitates, because he knows what those words really mean. Silence, management, more secrecy, more slow erosion of trust. And when William refuses that promise, Charles realizes the heir is no longer asking permission, he's taking responsibility. The moment a document like this exists outside the palace's control, the real fight begins, not the truth, the timing. In this thriller, whispers turn into phone calls, private briefings turn into press strategies, and every faction tries to shape the story before it shapes them. Because the first version the public hears becomes the version that sticks. And William realizes the palace isn't protecting the crown anymore, it's protecting itself. No phone's protocols tighten, and the air changes instantly. Staff are warned and watched. Corridors feel monitored. Meetings become smaller. The palace behaves like a creature guarding a wound, because it knows one leak can become an avalanche. And foreshadow sharpens when William senses something worse than fear intent. Someone inside wants the leak to happen for leverage. Someone wants a version of the story released that benefits their camp. Because if you can't stop the truth, you can at least time it. Camilla's camp prepares a misinformation counter-narrative, not necessarily by inventing facts, but by muddying perception. Make William look impulsive. Make him look unstable. Make him look like he's attacking family out of emotion, rather than protecting the institution. In a royal crisis, credibility is everything, and credibility is fragile. William debates going public versus keeping it internal, but he can feel the trap closing. Internal management creates delay, and delay creates manipulation. Catherine fears chaos could damage George's future, because she knows public trust isn't just about today's headlines, it's about what the future king will inherit. And if this becomes a street fight of rumors and counter-rumors, the crown loses the moral high ground entirely. Then the final warning arrives in one simple, terrifying moment. A journalist calls with a detail only insiders could know. Not a general rumor. Something specific. Something that proves the document is already bleeding into the outside world. That call confirms William's worst fear: this is no longer a private chess game. It's a public countdown, and the longer he waits, the more someone else will control the narrative for him. And once William realizes the document is already bleeding into the outside world, he understands silence isn't safety, it's surrender. William doesn't want to be the villain, but the document forces him to choose what kind of future king he will be, one who inherits a broken system, or one who stops it from breaking further. In this story, his exposure isn't revenge, it's a boundary, a signal that the monarchy will not survive on private bargaining anymore. And that's exactly why everyone panics, because boundaries create consequences. In the quiet that follows, William's mind doesn't race toward drama, it races toward duty. He reframes duty as protection of legitimacy, not protection of comfort. That shift is seismic, because the palace survives by smoothing conflict, delaying consequences, and trading truth for calm. William sees the cost of that strategy now. Every time the institution hid a fracture, the fracture grew. Every time it protected the wrong people, it weakened the right principles. And in this moment, he decides he will not inherit a throne built on whispered deals and invisible pressure. Foreshadow burns beneath his decision, because his move isn't only about today, it's about George, about what kind of monarchy his son will one day face. William understands the public doesn't forgive manipulation forever, and the longer secrets fester, the more explosive they become. He doesn't want George to inherit a crown that has to apologize for decades of hidden compromises. He wants George to inherit something cleaner, harder, more honest, even if honesty hurts. Catherine supports the principle, but fears the fallout, because she knows what happens when you bring an internal weapon into daylight. The palace doesn't simply respond, it retaliates. It uses narrative. It uses allies. It uses tradition like armor. Catherine can feel the institution bracing not to solve the problem, but to protect itself from the consequences of truth. She stays calm, but that calm is not peace. It is preparation. Because she knows once William takes the next step, there is no returning to normal. Charles realizes the heir's power is activating early, and that realization is devastating. Not because Charles doesn't love his son, but because a father wants time. A king wants control, and William's move signals both are slipping. In private, Charles tries to negotiate the pace, the phrasing, the right moment. But William has already crossed the psychological line. He isn't asking when. He's deciding how. Camilla's circle prepares retaliation through tradition and allies. Because that is the palace way, if you can't stop the action, you challenge the legitimacy of the actor. They frame William as emotional, reckless, divisive. They lean on the old language unity, duty, stability, while quietly turning those words into a leash. The aim is simple: make William look like the threat, so the document looks like a misunderstanding. But William sees the tactic clearly now, and it only hardens him. Because if truth triggers retaliation, it proves the truth mattered. Then the cliffhanger arrives like a gavel. William announces a formal review triggering the protocol path. Not a whisper, not a private argument, but a procedural action that locks the situation into motion. The moment that review is declared, the document stops being hypothetical. It becomes active. It becomes a countdown. Staff can't manage it away. Advisors can't soften it into nothing. The machine has been switched on, and the palace understands the terrifying part. Once a mechanism like this exists, it doesn't need rage to function. It only needs permission. And when William triggers that review, the palace realizes the document wasn't a threat, it was a countdown. This is the moment the crown stops being ceremonial and becomes strategic. Because once the document is exposed, the palace cannot pretend the mechanism doesn't exist. The public will demand answers, the household will demand loyalty, and the institution will demand survival. In this dramatized ending, the most terrifying truth emerges: the protocol was never meant to be used. Until now. And once it starts, it doesn't stop cleanly. The monarchy's stability becomes conditional. Overnight trust must be earned, not assumed. Camilla faces 3 outcomes, and none of them are painless: accept limits and survive diminished, retaliate quietly and risk escalation, or escalate openly and risk tearing the household apart. Charles risks being seen as captured if he protects her too strongly, or cruel if he allows the protocol to proceed. Every move becomes a statement. Every silence becomes a confession. The palace is no longer playing for comfort. It's playing for legitimacy. William defines what unity means: truth over comfort. And that decision changes the monarchy's internal gravity. The old unity was performance smiles, alignment, controlled messaging. William's unity becomes harder. a demand that the institution cannot keep trading reality for calm. That is why the palace panics, because a truth-driven monarchy is unpredictable to those who survive on control. And unpredictability is the enemy of a system built on choreography. Then comes the final twist, the detail no one noticed at first. The document includes a secondary clause. A clause designed for a worst-case scenario, a chain reaction that activates if resistance occurs or if the situation spills wider than intended. The implication is chilling. The protocol wasn't written as a single action. It was written as a sequence, a lever that opens other doors, a key that unlocks other files. And once that secondary clause is understood, William realizes this isn't simply about one figure's role. It's about an entire architecture of secrets that has been waiting for a moment like this. The cliffhanger lands with dread, because the vault of secrets opens wider, more names, more consequences. Once one file comes into daylight, others become vulnerable. Once one mechanism is admitted, others can be questioned. And the palace understands the terrifying truth: even if they survive this, they may not survive what comes next. Because the institution's greatest weakness isn't scandal. It's the sheer amount of buried truth that could be forced into the open if the wrong lever is pulled. Because once a removal document exists in daylight, the monarchy stops being tradition, it becomes a power struggle. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.